Good morning Year 4 and welcome to Wednesday's writing lesson. So today is not going to be in your comprehension book, so I just want us to make sure that we're on the right book and the right page. So the book that I want us to be working from today, children, is the writing book, okay? So if you've got the Year 3 writing book, then this video is for you. And then what I want you to do is turn to page 7. Okay, so 7 looks like this. So we started yesterday editing our work, didn't we? And we only did section 1. So today we're going to do section 2 and then we're going to apply our learning with section 3. So just make sure that you've got the right book for today's learning, okay? Lovely. So we're going to start with our SPAG starter, get our brains into gear, and then we're going to talk through our learning question and our learning for today. Okay, so we're going to start off with our spelling. So we're going to have a look at what I've written on the board and then we're going to see if you can spot and correct my spelling mistakes. So the sentence says, there were so many people at the football match. So that's my sentence for today for our spellings. Can you spot where my incorrect spellings are? Where is my spelling error? So it says there were so many people at the football match. So this is a bit of a tricky one. Now I'm hoping that you at home can notice which is my spelling error. Now if we look at all of the words in my sentence, they are all actually spelt correctly. But one of my words has the wrong spelling for that type of word. And we're looking at the first word in my sentence where it says there. Now the spelling that I have done for there is if it belongs to somebody, and I've used it in the wrong context, haven't I? I should have a different there. So I have got the correct spelling for there, but it's not written in the right context, isn't it? So if you have spotted that at home, well done, and we're going to correct that now and put the correct spelling for there, which doesn't have the personal context to it. So I'm going to get my pink pen and we're going to put the correct spelling. Now if you already know this spelling at home, that's great. I want you to be checking if I do the right spelling in here, okay? So I'm going to put my SP just above where there is, and I'm going to change that spelling, and it should have a capital T because it is the start of a sentence, but it's going to have T-H-E-R-E. And that is the correct spelling for this sentence because we're not talking about something that belongs to somebody. So we need to change this there, the spelling with E-I-R, to the there with E-R-E. And that's something really tricky and it takes a lot of practice to get used to. But just remember, if you've got the spelling T-H-E-I-R, it means that something belongs to somebody. And in this sentence, it doesn't make sense, does it? So we're going to move on now to punctuation. But if you spotted that at the start of the lesson, then thumbs up and well done to you at home. Okay, so we're going to move on to our punctuation now. So I want you to see if you can identify where the missing punctuation needs to go. So there's some missing punctuation. Can you spot it before I do? So my sentence says, let's go on the zip wire. And I can tell that somebody's talking, aren't they? What gives me that clue that somebody is talking in this sentence? There's some form of punctuation that tells me that it's speech. Can you spot it at home? Okay, so it should be that I've got my inverted commas. Sometimes we say speech marks, but the correct way is inverted commas. And these are here right at the very beginning of my sentence, which tells me somebody is speaking. Now I have missed my inverted commas at the end, and we always have to remember to have our inverted commas at the end to show that that person has now stopped talking. So if you noticed at home, my inverted commas were at the beginning of my sentence, but I missed them out at the end. So let's add them in now. So I'm going to put a P just where my inverted commas should be because that's my punctuation error, and I'm going to put my inverted commas in. And now that sentence is correct. Okay, so we can tick off that we've done punctuation. And now we're going to move on to the final part of our starter, which is grammar. Now I want you to identify the main clause in this sentence. So yesterday and on Monday we were looking at main clauses and subordinate clauses in our starter, weren't we? And what I want to do is try and apply that now, our learning in our starters, to see if you can notice it at home. So I want you to identify in my sentence, what is the main clause? Now I'm just going to recap for you at home. A main clause means that it will make sense on its own. It's a sentence, it's part of a sentence that will make sense on its own. So let's read the sentence and see if you can spot my main clause. I walk my dog before I go to school. I walk my dog before I go to school. What part in that sentence is my main clause? What chunk of that sentence makes sense on its own? Can you spot it at home? Have a think. Okay, so let's just break it down a little bit. I walk my dog. If I had a full stop there, would that make sense? Yes, it would. Would this make sense? Before I go to school. Would that make sense on its own? No, that wouldn't make sense on its own. So if it doesn't make sense on its own, we call that a subordinate clause. And that means that I walk my dog, we've said that makes sense on its own. So that is my main clause. And well done if you got that at home. That means that you're really listening to our spag starters. And I just want to give a little shout out as well. So here's my main clause. And my shout out is to Summer Elson, because she has been writing down all of her spag starters in a notebook. And she's been making notes, so she's really taking in our learning from our spag starters. So I just want to say a big thumbs up and well done to Summer Elson. Keep up that great work at home. Okay, let's have a look what we are doing today. So our learning question says, can I edit and improve an extract of writing? And that comes down to our section 2 of our learning. So I broke up the steps of our learning over the past few days, just so we can really have a think at what editing and improving looks like. So well done to those of you that have done that at home. So when we come on to editing and improve, let's just recap some of the terminology and the vocabulary we use to make us think about different techniques we can do to improve our writing. So we've got change, so we might want to change something. Improve, so when we edit we mean to improve our writing and make it better. Sometimes we need to remove, some of our writing. Maybe we have written too much in one sentence, or we've maybe repeated ourselves, so sometimes we have to remove. Sometimes it's the opposite and we have to actually add detail. Maybe our sentences are too short and we don't give enough detail in there. Maybe adding a few more adjectives or an expanded noun phrase into our sentences, it makes our writing much better. We always have to check for sense, and sometimes you will see me, Miss Colclough or Miss Prince writing in our pink pen, check for sense, and that just means read it out loud. Does it make sense to you? So we do have to check, does it make sense? And then finally here we've got split, and that's what we looked at yesterday. We were looking at removing and all the time, using that conjunction and maybe we can split it by using a full stop, starting a new sentence, or using a comma in between. So those are just some of the vocabulary that we've looked at when we talk about editing and improving our writing. Okay, so let's just have a look and recap splitting. So splitting one long sentence into two shorter sentences can sometimes improve your work. So I've written a really long sentence behind me and we're going to read through it. At home, I want you to think, how can I split this very long sentence into just two shorter sentences and see how it will read better. So let's have a look at what I've written on the board. The fox dived into the rabbit hole and sniffed around for the rabbit's scent and clawed through the mud and tried to find it for its dinner. So that's a really long sentence, and hopefully you've noticed I have used a conjunction more than once, and that was the conjunction and. So let's read through it one more time, have a think at home, I'll give you some time afterwards. How could I split this sentence into two shorter sentences. So remember splitting one large sentence, which is this one, into two shorter sentences. The fox dived into the rabbit hole and sniffed around for the rabbit's scent and clawed through the mud and tried to find it for its dinner. Okay, so whilst you're thinking, I'm just going to highlight where I've repeated myself and use the same conjunction and. So you have a think at home, that'll give you some thinking time. I'm going to highlight where I've used too many ands in one sentence. Okay, so those are my three ands, and hopefully you have realised at home how I could actually split this sentence up. I'm going to swap to a pink pen now. I'm going to show you how you can edit your work, because when you've written an extract in school, you don't want to be rewriting the whole thing, spending another lesson rewriting, because that's not editing, that's just rewriting something. When we edit, it does make our work look a bit messy, but it's important because we need to show that we are correcting our mistakes and improving our work. So we're going to edit it with just a pink pen. We're not going to rewrite anything. Okay. The fox dived into the rabbit hole and sniffed around for the rabbit's scent. I'm going to stop here because this is where I've put my second and. The first one was okay, but when you come on to use an and more than once, that means you maybe need to stop and think, do I need to split this sentence? So I'm going to put a full stop here. Okay, I'm going to take away that and, because I'm going to be repeating myself. The fox dived into the rabbit hole and sniffed around for the rabbit's scent. Clawed through. Well, who clawed? The fox. So we can put the fox or he. So I'm going to change that for he. I've got my capital letter at the start of my sentence because I have put a full stop in there now. So remember to use your capital letters after you've put in that full stop. So let's have a read of it now. Maybe we can leave it at that, maybe we can improve it more. The fox dived into the rabbit hole and sniffed around for the rabbit's scent. He clawed through the mud and tried to find it for its dinner. What do you think at home? Do you think that's better? Do you think we've managed to split that sentence? I do. I think that we've managed to split that sentence, and it was a very simple technique that we've used. All we've done is removed one of the ands, we've put in a full stop, and then we've replaced it with a word with the pronoun. So it's showing me who is clawing through the mud. So well done if you've done that at home. So we've had a recap of splitting. Let's have a look at another technique before you move on to your work at home. Okay, so my second tip is to remove unnecessary words that can improve the way that it is read. So sometimes we will repeat ourselves and we're writing when really we don't need to. Sometimes we need to remove some of that extra detail. Sometimes it's a good thing, but it's noticing when actually you're repeating something that you've already written. So let's have a look at what I've written on the board and see if you can improve that by removing unnecessary words at home. When we arrived at the park, we stopped for a picnic in the park. Now this one should be quite easy for you to notice. I've repeated myself. How have I repeated myself? When we arrived at the park, we stopped for a picnic in the park. Well, I know that you're having the picnic in the park because you've just said you've arrived at the park. So that is unnecessary words here. So when it says we stopped for a picnic, put a full stop in there, and this is not needed. We don't need that extra information. So sometimes you have to read through it, check, does it make sense? And if it doesn't, do you need to remove any unnecessary words? So let's have a look at any others that we've got. Okay, so here is my completed one. When we arrived at the park, we stopped for a picnic, and you can see that we've just taken away that repeated information in the sentence. Okay, so I've got two more here for you that I want you to have a look at home and see if you can spot my mistakes. Put the soup in a pot to boil for 10 minutes in a pot. Okay, so I'm putting the soup in a pot to boil for 10 minutes in a pot. Well, I know I've got to put it in a pot because I've already said it, haven't I? I've already said it at the start of my sentence. So actually, all I'm going to do is cross out that unnecessary words, and this is something you'll be doing today in your workbooks. So put the soup in a pot to boil for 10 minutes. Stop there. We don't need to say in a pot again. So let's just put a full stop where it needs to go and cross out that unnecessary words that I don't need. Okay, let's have a look at our final one for today. Tie your shoelaces before you trip over your shoelaces. So where is my repeated or unnecessary words in this sentence? Tie your shoelaces before you trip over your shoelaces. I've repeated shoelaces twice, haven't I? So I'm going to just shorten my sentence to tie your shoelaces before you trip over. Your shoelaces is unnecessary words that we don't need. So when you come to do this in your books, I want you to have a look at those unnecessary words and can you cross out where you don't need them. Okay, and that brings us on to our challenge. So when you've done section 1, you will have an extract and you've got some editing and improvement to do. So you're going to rewrite the extract of a rhino that has escaped. Okay, so you've got the extract there, but you need to maybe look at it, where can you remove unnecessary words, and you're going to rewrite it with the lines given underneath. Now when you've done your work for today, my challenge for you is can you complete the story of the escaped rhino? Because our extract is very short in our books, isn't it? So it's only about 4 lines long. What I want you to do is, if you can, complete my challenge and just write the ending of the story for me. So that would be lovely if you can send those in to the Year 4 email so I can read them. Okay, so again, well done to everybody who is watching the videos and who's sending their work in and engaging in the starters. So I want to see some challenges coming through today into the Year 4 email box so I can have a look at them. Well done for all of your hard work today, and I hope you enjoy editing and improving your work. I'll see you tomorrow.